Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Area Chats. I'm your host, Paul Brogan, and we're about all things in the greater Concord region, the people, places, and things that make this an extraordinary place to live, to work, and to play. I have two guests today, and they both do all of that and then some, and I'm thrilled to have them with me today. And welcome to Margaret Porter, author of 15 books, and a wonderful friend and a great part of our local community. And welcome back for about the 12th time, I think.
Thank you so much for having me again.
It's
This has
delightful.
become a good habit.
Thank you. Thank you for making time to be here. And my special guest is Laura Canoy. Everyone knows Laura from the Exchange and the extraordinary work she has done through the years on behalf of individuals who we never knew we wanted to know until she got them comfortable enough to talk about themselves and to share. And Laura also has a brilliant podcast that everyone has to check out. And it's called Read Local NH. And I was fortunate enough to be a guest, as was Margaret.
That's right.
And Laura has spent the better part of the last year going around to bookstores, bringing awareness to authors and individuals here in the state. And it's truly amazing work that you've been doing. And as authors, I know we appreciate it. And your show just seems to make them people we want to read. And I think that that's a great gift. So welcome back. You were here a year ago.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. The podcast has been an absolute delight.
Yes, and it shows. It comes across, the energy and the passion, and it's wonderful. So thank you. Thank you both. And we are here to talk about something that we feel very strongly about. Last year, we joined forces to create Conversations with Concord Area Authors, which we had at the Bank of New Hampshire stage, and hundreds of people showed up for it. And it gave us an opportunity, Margaret and I, and Laura as the host, to highlight the talent that's in this community and in this area. And it was so amazing what occurred that night. Laura, I'll ask you first. What did it mean to you?
Well, it meant so much, and I actually wrote a blog post about this recently. Mm-hmm. Given the sponsors, given the people involved, I knew it would be a great night, but it was even more than that. There was something very special that started to emerge about 20 minutes in when we turned to the audience and started asking them to, query the authors. And people asked such rich, intelligent, insightful questions. Every 2 or 3 questions I said as the host, gosh, why didn't I think to ask that? And you just felt this passion for the written word and this excitement that so much of that creativity around the written word is happening right here in Concord. So after the event, which was just pizzazz, Concord TV came up to me and said, boy, that was great. Would you like to do a podcast? And I said, sure, what about? And they said, what would you like to talk about? And I said, I'd like to talk about local authors. So there was this synergy around that event, not just that night, but that really sparked me to create my podcast, Read Local NH.
And it has been a huge success. And I hear people telling me, have you listened? And I say, oh, yes, I don't miss one. And there's an excitement around it. There really is. And I think I can't imagine why nothing like that ever happened earlier, years ago, but I think this is the right time, and this was the perfect timing for you to step into this and to take this on.
Yeah, the event that we held was really the catalyst for this, and obviously I couldn't do this project when I was host of the Exchange because that was extremely demanding. So,
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Margaret, as my co-producer, my dear friend, one of my favorite authors,
Thank you.
What have you heard in the year since we did the first event?
When are you going to do it again? Are you going to do it again? And we knew, I think, from the beginning, as soon as we finished, that we would repeat it, that it would become an annual event. So this will be our second annual Conversations with Concord Area Authors. And I think people were quite interested to see that we had 4 people on the stage who are
Yes.
actively writing and publishing. Some are setting their books here locally, like Virginia McGregor and Mark Okrant, who was with us last year. Their books are set in New Hampshire, and then mine are set all sorts of places all around the world and in past times. And yours is right about Concord, the Concord Theater, and your memoir. So I think it was a nice way to uplift the local writing community. And it's always so wonderful as an author to hear from other authors and their processes and how they do what they do and why they do what they do. And then to have the people in the audience to be so interested
Yes.
and ask such, as Laura said, such wonderful questions, sometimes unexpected. Not only the typical questions that you get, like where do you get your ideas and things like that, but more about the process of writing. So it was a real community building thing, and I think this year's event will reflect that in some different ways, I think, than last year, even though the format on stage will be the same. And the books will be available again in the
Yes.
lobby, and we had a great response
We
to the book
did.
selling last year.
It was amazing afterwards.
Yes.
People didn't want to leave. They didn't want it to be over with. People said to me, I can't believe that there's this much talent in the area, because I don't think they always think, when they see local author on the rack at Gibson's, I don't think they always stop and sort of look at the titles or pull the book out and read a little bit about it. And I think that gave people pause to reevaluate what they do when they go into a bookstore, and not just to rush to the books that are at the top of the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Paul. And, Margaret's books take us to, the halls of Versailles and, to the glittering ballrooms of Hollywood. And your book, even though partly it's a love letter to Concord, it also goes to Hollywood and other parts of the country. Other authors I've read, while their books are set in New Hampshire, they explore timeless themes about identity and who we are and family. And so I do think that there's this idea that, New Hampshire author, they're all writing about the Revolutionary War. And, I personally think the Revolutionary War is very interesting.
It is.
But the Concord area authors are just broad and wide and deep and fascinating.
They really are. It was great to share space with all of them and to get to know them through some of the answers. The questions you came up with were wonderful, and to hear each person, because everyone had a different response to the question. So as an author, you're sitting there picking up new ideas and thoughts from your fellow authors on the stage, and things that make you think perhaps the way you do things, that maybe you might want to implement some of those thoughts into your own work, which is wonderful. Before we move further, I do want to mention the second annual event is scheduled for Wednesday, April the 5th, and that's at 7:30 at the beautiful Bank of New Hampshire stage. And tickets are available at the box office, which is open Monday through Friday, 12 to 6. They're at 16 South Main Street, or you can go online to ccanh.com and get tickets. Tickets are required, but there is no charge. There are no handling fees. There are no costs associated with this, but the value of what you get that evening is truly amazing. And I always say to people, if you listen to Laura Canoy on the radio for years and years, and who didn't, this is the chance to see her in person and to watch how her wonderful interview technique works with a group of people on the stage. And she, brings out the best in all of us. And that was, part of what made last
Thank
year
you,
so
Paul.
remarkable.
It's very nice of you.
It's
Yeah.
true. I second that.
But
Okay,
it
now the
is.
pressure's on now.
And Margaret, I know that by the time we left the building last April, we had already said we wanted to do it again. And I love the enthusiasm you have kept going on this for the whole year through the months and months and months. You haven't wavered at all in believing that there needed to be a second and to make this an annual event in the community.
Well, it's hard to waver with your enthusiasm, and I just share in that. So with the partnership as co-producers at the event is I value that greatly, and I'm really looking forward to what we do this time around. I think people who came last year, if they're expecting it to be exactly the same, with all the same people, or even the same exact format, I think they should know that we're trying to mix it up, make it something a little bit different,
Yes.
and so that there will be some added value and some different value, and that I think makes it worth attending as well. It's not same old, same old.
And there'll be 3 new authors to the
Exactly.
event this year, which I think is going to be wonderful. And I think that people will be surprised at the work that they do, and hearing what makes them do what they do and why it matters.
Well, that's a real benefit about the Concord area authors, as Laura was saying. It's so diverse.
Yes.
There's so many different types of fiction and nonfiction, and that makes it easy to plan an event that has a really good mix of different types of writing. And for the readers of the area, they can come and listen to what it's like to write nonfiction versus
True.
fiction, and then have the opportunity to purchase books and support local authors.
Yes, and Gibson's is one of the sponsors for the event, as is our own Concord TV. Thank you to them. And the Concord Public Library is a sponsor. Steve Dupree and the Dupree Companies. And this year we have a new sponsor, the New Hampshire Writers Project. And we're very grateful for the belief they have in what we're doing. I think is really important, and it has value that they see that doing this is a chance to open eyes and hearts and minds and souls and everything. So, Laura, last year, when you left the event, what struck you most about the entire evening, from when we all got together in was it green room or something?
The green room.
The
yes.
green room beforehand until we said our goodbyes in the lobby, several hours later.
Well, it's kind of what I said before. I knew it would be good, but there was a sort of, without sounding too goofy, like a magical energy and passion around the creativity that all the authors on the stage brought to that conversation, but also bring to our area. I mean, we see everywhere, eat local, shop
Yes.
local,
Yes.
buy local. But I am trying to add to that with your help, read local, because there is so much, as Margaret said, diversity.
Yes.
So there was just a lot of sparkle and energy around the event that I knew it would be fun and good, but it was very, very special.
Well, from the stage, I noticed people were mesmerized. I mean, truly,
Yeah, it was very
nobody
quiet and-
was fidgeting or checking on something else or getting up to wander around. I mean, they were sitting there enthralled with and nobody wanted to leave. I spoke to a few people. Well, I didn't want to get up because I didn't know what question she was going to ask next, and it might have been a question I would have had, and I wanted to hear, the answer. So I think that they, were very, very focused on what was going on, and yet it was very entertaining too. It wasn't like sitting in college, classroom, listening to a stuffy discussion at times that it could be. There was something very fun and entertaining and light, and
It was
just,
a very dynamic conversation, and that was mostly due to Laura's good planning ahead, and also her wonderful interviewer skills that she's honed over these many years.
And the audience, too. They asked such great questions.
Yes, and the
Really.
age range of the audience as well, because
Yes.
we had high school students
Yes, we
there.
did.
We had adults, we had senior citizens, we had baby boomers. It was a really good cross section of our local community, which is great. And the high school students were there with their phones interviewing the authors and
Yes.
capturing them for a school project or something, or they were interested in writing and capturing some advice, and so that added to to the specialness, I think.
It
of
really did, because they ranged in age from teen up. Well, my mother was 98 there, so you had the whole spectrum, and and people that said a number of years ago, books are dead, traditional books and things like that. All you had to do was spend that hour or so in that room in the theater to know that that was the furthest thing from the truth, because I think that reading is such an important part of lives, and I truly believe that. Laura, when you go around to the various places throughout the state promoting your podcast and your passion for reading local, what is one of the most frequent questions or stories that you get from people?
So mostly I'm going around, and when I go around to visit the bookstores, I go around to kind of do a secret hit. Like I go in and I say, may I take pictures? And then I and then I take pictures of the store. And I love highlighting these local bookstores. They all have similarities and differences. They all have a local author shelf, but there's some similarities and differences there. Up north you see more hiking books. Over on the seacoast you see sort of books about seacoast history, because that's where New Hampshire was founded.
Exactly.
So I love the sort of flavor of each bookstore. That's been really, really fun. And if you go to my website or to the podcast website, I have a map of where I've been so far. So that's been great. In terms of the authors, one of the questions that I like to ask all the authors who come on, and both of you have been on, so is what else are you reading? And who else especially are you reading local? And I've learned about so many other authors that need to come on the show. Honestly, I wish I could do it once a week. It only is once a month, but there's so many great local authors in New Hampshire that really I could do it once a week. It's been fabulous. Now that it's getting more well known, people are starting to write to me and say, I have this friend or I have this person. I had to say no to somebody the other day because the author was from Maine. So I said no to a Vermont author the other day. So maybe one day it'll become Read Local
New England.
New England.
Yes.
But for right now, it's Read Local NH. So I've just learned so much about the state and the people who are doing such great creative work in the state.
It is. It's amazing. We are so blessed.
Yeah.
Margaret, your last book, Myrtle Wand, which I've read 3 times, is your 15th book.
That's
and
correct,
you've now
yes.
completed another one.
I have completed my 16th book, which is contemporary, finally, after 15 historical novels set from the 17th century to the 18th and early 19th, and then Golden Age Hollywood in the early 20th century. I have delved into modern day life, finally.
And how did that feel?
It felt really good. It was fun. You still have to do research if you're researching professions or refreshing your memory if you're dealing with professions that you might have worked with yourself.
Yes.
But it was just a lot of fun. So there will be a sequel to that book.
Oh, great.
Good.
And do you find the area, is writing any different writing here in the Concord area than writing someplace else? I mean, do you feel any kind of energy or something that sparks you more?
I find much energy here, especially, in the winter time, we're expecting more weather,
Yes.
more snow, hibernation on snowy days. Those are wonderful writing days, but also summer days sitting by the lake on the screen porch overlooking the lake. It's very conducive to the muse. So it's we have it all here, and then if you just need to get into your head but get out of your head, and you can walk through the woods, and we have nature is such a great inspiration, and you find yourself admiring the trees and the grass and the trickling stream, and next thing you know, your subconscious is sort of working out whatever the plot issue was that drove you out into the wilderness to find your answers. So I just find it. I have always found it, even before I lived here year round. It's just been so nurturing for me and for my creativity.
And it is a creative, remarkable community. I mean, for 40-something thousand people, the opportunities that we have here for the arts and for, just supportive individuals who support what we do or what we believe in. And Laura, do you ever envision yourself one day writing?
Yes. And more to come.
Okay. Good.
More to come. I am actively writing,
Yes.
revising. In fact, if I look a little tired, I spent the whole weekend massively, Margaret knows because I was telling her about it, massively revising a novel that I am working on. So stay tuned. It's going to be great.
Now, does an event like this event that you're hosting, does that help you as a potential, as someone writing? Does it inspire you in some ways?
Oh,
to-
absolutely. Because as you said earlier, Paul, you get different ideas about the process or how to think about things, or even just a little reassurance, to hear from other experienced authors like Margaret to say, oh yeah, I was banging my head against the wall, I couldn't get out of this plot, and to know that you're not the only person who is maybe struggling or
Yes.
trying to figure it out. So, oh, absolutely, yeah.
And you will come back every year that we hold the event, correct, as our host?
Absolutely. I'll be upset if you don't invite me.
No, your obvious love for it. It's when you asked each of us a question last year, it connected in such a personal and heartfelt way, and it just was the connection was so remarkable. It wasn't as though an interviewer were talking with us, but it was as though a friend who cared and wanted to make us look our best also.
Right.
And it just, the dynamic that took place was so amazing. And the audience picks up on that, which is why I encourage people, if you didn't go last year, it was early and people starting to get back to things. But if you didn't go, or if you think, oh, I'm not that big on books, come and experience it, because it's impossible to define it with mere words. You have to really be sitting there with all these people and feel what we felt on the stage. And it's an amazing experience. It truly is an experience. So.
And it's not only about the books themselves, but just the stories that writers can tell about
Yes.
an incident or what inspired a book. It may not even relate to anyone or drive anyone to read the actual book, but it's a human story, and it's
It is.
storytelling and story sharing, which just draws people in of itself.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, storytelling is just, the earliest people probably sat around the campfire and told stories. So I agree with what Margaret said, and something you said, Paul, about just you appreciated my interview style. It's just because I love stories. And so I just felt like the authors were just telling me stories and,
Yes.
tell me more. So.
And that was very much evident on your podcast, which I will
Yes.
throw another plug in for.
Thank you.
Read Local NH, because it comes across as though you're having a conversation with the person sitting in a living room together, just sharing thoughts and ideas, with a fire roaring in the fire. Just a wonderful level of comfort. And it allows the person you're interviewing to feel so relaxed that they're comfortable in sharing, responses to the questions that you're asking.
Right. If someone's nervous and I'm off-putting, they're not going to give us a good program. So it's in my interest to make people feel comfortable. I always do, plus, lots and lots of preparation.
Yes, you do.
And that makes people feel comfortable.
Yes.
They see the preparation, they go, oh, okay, this is what's going on. And that also adds to the comfort level.
My only complaint is I wish it were longer, because it's such an
Yes.
enjoyable conversation.
Yeah.
It's
It
hard.
is.
Oh, it's time.
Yeah, the podcast is about 20, 25
It's the
minutes.
same when we come to the
Right.
studio with you, Paul.
Thank you. But it's evident you've read the book or
Right.
the works of the author you're interviewing, and so you pull out things that even the author might not have really thought about, in the process, not since they wrote the book, and you make that very insightful, and it's a wonderful connection. But then the whole evening on April 5th will be that way. I guarantee anyone that comes, you will feel like you're sharing in an intimate space with a group of people, because it just has that wonderful flow. And you'll be wanting at the end of the evening it to go on, just as we did when we left.
We should get a little fake fireplace.
I
you
know.
know?
That'd be
The stage.
nice. So, well, we have to wrap it up, unfortunately. The time goes by way too quickly. But, Margaret, thank you. I know we'll be spending a lot of time together, as I will with you, in the weeks ahead as we prepare for April 5th, 7:30. It's free, and I would tell people, please make sure you do get tickets for it, however, because you will need tickets, but they won't cost you anything. And books will be available by all of the authors participating, and it will just be a very memorable opportunity to spend some time with a wonderful group of local individuals and find out a little bit more about what makes them tick. You may come away inspired, wanting to try your own hand at writing, even if it's only a diary or something, but that is so true. So, Laura Canoy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much. And Margaret, thank you for everything.
I will always
And-
say yes when you invite me to your show, Paul.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Concord TV and Matt, and thank you to all of you who make the time to watch the broadcasts and to say something about them afterwards. I appreciate it. So this is your host, Paul Brogan, for Capital Area Chats. Hope to see you April 5th at the Bank of New Hampshire stage. If you come, say hello, please. Thank you.